you having no rules, you having no restrictions, etc. I have all the restrictions that I have. I don't have freedom. Imagine you went to a fine dining place and they don't offer you the entire range of cutlery. What would you expect? When you do what you're supposed to do, when you are supposed to do it, and to the extent that you're supposed to do it, you'll avoid trouble in life. You'll avoid trouble in life, you'll be free. My life is completely catching fire and I will sit here and enjoy. Yeah, there could be some people who may do that, but that's a very artificial state of being. If you're living a dharmic life, so if you're all work in progress, then we need to also be disciplined. We have to start thinking about life from a holistic perspective for us, for others. Too much of discipline with ignoring the situation and others, then is self-absorbed. Not everything may be written in those granthas, but some of them is also the interpretation of what is written out there. Learn from gurus, learn from masters, have constant dialogues. Literally, it's a very important concept. Many people use it as a psychological or a commercial concept. So Yama and Niyama is absolutely important for a student, a householder. Take the liberty to say it's actually to help you prevent torturing yourself and punishing yourself.
Om Tridevi Bhyo Namaः.
Om Tridevi Pyo Namaः.
Pranam Dada. I welcome
Pranam.
you and all of our viewers to Sri Shakti Healing. Dada, we are truly blessed to have you guide us on this journey and to help us clarify our confusions about freedom, free will, all the dilemmas. And last podcast, you spoke to my friends about faith, free will, and karma. This time, I bring another set of questions to you, and this is about freedom and boundaries. So, as
Thank
children,
you, Aarti, to you and all these students for doing this. I think all of you are doing a brilliant job of collecting your questions, also talking to some of our regular audience and getting their questions and preparing these podcasts. So much indebted to all of you. God bless.
thank you so much. Uh, so, Dada, the first question that comes to my mind is, as children, we are given us a set of rules in our family, at
Mm,
school,
mm,
and we are supposed to follow them.
mm,
And
mm,
sometimes, even as adults and even as children, we dislike these rules and we see them as restrictions. So the
mm,
first question is, why do we instinctively see rules as restrictions, whereas
mm,
actually in our tradition, these are
mm,
paths to strength?
mm. I think that's a brilliant place for us to start. And let's go a little back into our childhood, our teenage, etc. Wonder, Aarti, ever if you or any of our other students or people in general are explained the real meaning of what freedom is? Do we have that conversation at all? Right? So, in a sense, quote unquote, when we say freedom, we are talking about you having no rules, you having no restrictions, etc. Whereas the true meaning, a spiritual meaning, a dharmic meaning, a meaning that we can understand from our own Shastras, and if we were to go deep into understanding our Prakarana Granthas, which Shankaracharya ji wrote about the qualities of what a human being should be or what a sadhak should be, or if we look at the Prasthanatraya, which is our Upanishads, our Brahma Sutras, Bhagavad Gita, and that whole conversation of Sri Krishna with Arjuna talking about the qualities of who a human is. Look at all of that. None of that talks about living without rules. None of that talks
Absolutely.
about living without laws. What does it talk about? The first and foremost focus is that you free your mind. Can your mind really think freely? Is your mind capable of being autonomous, which means without being stimulated unnecessarily, will you go ahead and do what you need to do in life? Without really being checked, will you be in cognizance with your environment, your nature, other people around, right? So those are two absolutely fundamental things that are you getting ahead in life properly? Are you really getting along in life properly with others? We humans, we live in a society. And if you look at the way the human society has evolved over a period of time, there is no one individual who can boast that I can do everything that I need to do to run my life on my own. So we will continue to have external dependencies. In that light, what you really need to cultivate is internal independence first. And that independence that prevents you from fears, from anxieties, from negative emotions, which would then prevent your effectiveness with life. So I think let's start there. So to answer your question, the fundamental flaw that we all carry is as human beings, when we were children, when we were growing up, when the foundation years were there, nobody helped us understand what really freedom meant. And in that light, what happens? A child wants instant gratification. A child wants to do what it wants to do, when it wants to do, how it wants to do, and it doesn't like restrictions. And the concept that the child starts getting when the parents check it, or the environment check it, or school restricts it, or college is restricted, or society in general says you can do this, you cannot do this, puts norm. When we look at culture, tradition, all of these things, what does the child do? It will try to find its own space. It'll try to experiment with its limits. It'll try to experiment with its identity. And rebellion is born.
Mm.
The other place is you are also not working on the child's soft skills,
Yeah.
aspects of how do I really communicate? How do I help others understand my point of view? How do I get in and have a discussion and not allow the discussion to become an argument? And in the discussion, if I have to present an argument, how do I really present it logically?
Mm.
Okay? I was talking to somebody the other day. Instinctively, I said, if you're using anger in anything that you're doing, you are using an emotion. Anger is not a logic. The person just stopped for 2 minutes and was staring at me. I was like, what is this person about to say? And I knew what was coming because I had said anger is an emotion. It's not a logic. But this person was saying that I show anger or I use anger to help manage my situation. How can you
Mm.
do that? How can you use an emotion to manage a situation? To manage a situation, really, what you need is logic. You have to be objective about things, right? This is what is true management. Coping. Anger could help this person cope in that situation,
Mm.
put a defense mechanism in that situation, create a pseudo protection in that situation. But really, it did not help this in person manage. And that's how, for us, all it is. How
Yeah.
much of logic are we using in our life versus how much do our emotions run our life? And that's not just the only thing that runs our life. The beliefs that trigger these emotions, they run our life, right? The subconscious recordings that we have, automatics, they run our life. Much of
Right.
that flow. So the second part of what we need to understand is as much as we did not understand that to be free is to be free on the inside, and to be free is to get along with others. To be free also means to have the skills to manage in this life because everybody is not going to think the way you are thinking.
Right.
Everybody is not going to do the kind of things that you are doing when you are doing them. You will need
Yeah.
to go through that flow of life also to get ahead. And much of this is the first level of spiritual development, the development of your spirit, your inner self
Mm.
that we need to do. And when you don't do that, when you don't have the awareness, the ability to manage with your situations, and when you come face to face with life, when you have brush offs with life, what do? You trade off logic for your emotions. And in that emotional state, when you don't get to do what you want to do, what will you term it as? I am not free. And the fight
Mm.
starts, the rebellion starts. Right? Had we had the awareness of coexistence and had we had the right values and the skills to get along with all the things in life, would we then have this challenge? Because you need to remember, even the most difficult person or the most difficult situation have some solution to it. The most difficult person also listens to somebody. The most difficult situation also has some way to get out of it. But you have to work to find that, right? And if you don't have that ability, then you'll say, I have all the restrictions that I have. I don't have freedom.
Mm.
And when somebody imposes rules, when somebody says, do this or don't, right? I'm seeing a very common debate these days. People are putting posts that I went to a temple in certain kind of dress. And I'm not talking about a girl or a boy. Somebody had posted that they went to the uh, temple in a miniskirt. This was a lady, obviously, and then somebody else had posted that I went to a temple in a Bermuda and we were turned out. Yeah. By nature, there is a sanctity of that place. You have to respect it, right? You're going to a fine dining restaurant and somebody walked in a chapel and they were turned back. You're in a fine dining place. By definition, there is a finesse that you expect in that. Imagine you went to a fine dining place and they don't offer you the entire range of cutlery. What would you expect? You can't call yourself fine dining. No, just like that, just like you expect that place to be fine dining. Just like you go to the temple and you expect a certain sanctity of puja having been done, the place to be clean, etc., the aura to be the way it is of a temple. The others also have that responsibility, right? You expect, you are expected to go to the fine dining restaurant in a certain way. You are expected to go to the temple in a certain way, right? Or
Absolutely.
imagine, could you go to the international terminal and take a flight to another country and say, I'm not carrying my passport. I am free. It's my freedom. Could you do that? You couldn't do that,
No,
right? Could you park your car in the middle of a busy crossway and say, I am free to park wherever it is. This is my country, this is my land, this is my road, I pay for it with my taxes. I am going to sit here, get on top of my car and eat a burger or a meal, or I'm going to have a drink here. Can you do that?
no, of course
You
not.
couldn't, bro. You couldn't, know. Now, you live in Pune city and you have so many great colleges there. Oh, I'm sorry, you shifted to Mumbai. You're in Mumbai city now, and you have so many colleges out there. Suddenly, you look at certain college and say, "Oh my God, this is a lovely college. I'm going to go in. I'm going to sit into the first class that I find." Can you do that?
No.
So many times, this whole debate of people saying, "I don't have freedom," or others are impinging on my freedom, or this rule is not like this. Many times, it's a very irrational debate. You don't want to adhere. Now, that's the third part of the thing, that
Hmm.
some of us have a fundamental problem with adherence.
Hmm.
And for us, adhering, or in that sense of fitting in, is uncomfortable. It challenges something inside us. And then we don't want to do that and we push back and rebel or whatever. So, to sort of complete your answer, there are three aspects to this whole thing. So, when rules and some of these things challenge and we say that we are not experiencing freedom, the first and foremost that happens is we really truly don't understand, or we have not been taught the meaning of freedom. Hence, we choose to use whatever meaning it has. Number two, like I said, we don't have the skills to get along and get things done, what we need to in our life, or to even understand other point of views and change and
Hmm.
accommodate or adapt. So, adaptation, accommodation,
Hmm.
getting along. We don't have the skills to do that. And hence, again, we feel that freedom is a challenge. And the third, like I said, is some of us want to, not, don't want to adhere. And in that desire for non-adherence, then you use whatever it is, from an emotion to an excuse to social media to groupism. These days, there's a wonderful I scratch your back, you scratch my back sort of a community setup that forms on social media anytime. The bubble, the bubble phenomena, and they're using that. So that's the way I see it. I mean, I can go on and give you many other meanings, but some of those will actually just fit up, like really having a jnana or a guru, it'll impact all of these things. Having family values, having your parents follow things, it'll fit into some of these. Those are sub reasons. Those are why some of these three phenomena occur. But predominantly what I see is it's these three.
Hmm. This makes so much sense, Dada. So it is also our failure to look at us, look internally, rather than, I mean, looking outside and then saying somebody is not giving us freedom. Whereas we are absolutely failing at looking at, like you said, skills, our non-adherence, our lack of understanding of freedom.
Yeah.
And so the word that comes to my mind is discipline. Then what is discipline?
Mm.
What is self-discipline? Self-governance.
Mm. So look at it this way. To go to sleep, what do you have to do?
Just go to sleep where you have a setup, you have a bed, and you go to
That's
sleep.
it, right? You could be feeling sleepy, you could be feeling drowsy, but if you're going to go around, okay, I'm feeling sleepy, I'll have an ice cream. I'm feeling sleepy, I will watch some more things on my laptop. I'm feeling sleepy, I will go for a walk. I'm sleepy, I will go for a bath. You're sleepy, you want to sleep, but you do all of these other nonsense. Will you go to sleep? At some point in time, your body will give up and you'll crash. That is then
Hmm.
blanking out or conking off, right? But to go to sleep, you have to sleep, right? Apply that logic. What is this? To do something, you have to do it. What are you meant to do? You're meant to live life. Okay. If you're living life, what is a part of your life? What are your dharmas? And I often come to this that discipline, let's take it into our shastric meaning, is about karmic shuddhi. What is our karma? Okay. Now, karmic shuddhi is all about understanding that number one, I am a human and I have certain human responsibilities, like getting along with others, respecting others, coexisting, being in that space, like I was talking about in the previous answers. Then you have certain Vishesha dharmas, certain relationships that you have, your mother, your father, your siblings, the family, and the society that you're born into. These are your natural Vishesha dharmas. By birth, you've been bestowed these. And then there are certain Vishesha dharmas that we choose. We choose to be in a certain profession, in a professional body, in a certain organization. We choose a spouse, children, friends, etc. Those are your chosen Vishesha dharmas, right? Or where you've exercised a choice of free will. You're supposed to excel in these. So you're supposed to bring in discipline into these also, right? So whatever you need to do in those Vishesha dharmas, you have to, like, don't call your parents for a long time. Suddenly they will call and obviously they would want to catch up with you. Na? You have to do something with your spouse and you don't get it done. Obviously you will end up with a fight somewhere. You have a child and you are not going to take care of the child's education for child's studies for about 8 months in the year, and suddenly when final exams come and you say, oh, you have not scored in the unit test, oh, you have not done this, oh, you have not done that, you have not learned anything, now you have to excel, you have to become first in the final exam. Can that happen? Right? So discipline is about getting all of these things in order. Discipline also is
Hmm.
about spiritually living your life. So discipline can be understood with karmic shuddhi. And I think I've recently spoken about several shuddhis, and karmic shuddhi is one of those subjects that I've addressed. So for us, discipline number one means karmic shuddhi, which means what you need to do, what you're supposed to do, you must do that. What is your dharma? You must live by that. Your human dharma, your vishesha dharmas, there are certain rinas that you need to exhaust. And in general, your life, you have certain prarabdhas. You have to finish those. Yes, within that, you have to find some time for leisure, etc. But what you need to understand is that the modern concept of leisure, I have to have 3 holidays a year. I have to have 5 getaways a year. I have to have that visit to the pub or the restaurant, all of these things. These are certain things which are very commercial ideas of living life. Unfortunately, this is not how life was supposed to be lived. Do you need to catch up with your family? Yes. Do you need to have fun, celebration? Yes. But there are so many expectations people have of more commercial life or commercially visible life as compared to what is the dharmic life, right? So the first and foremost aspect of discipline is living life in a slightly dharmic way, understanding all the dharmas of your life and living by that. Number one. Number two is when you have to do something, you also have to do it in a structured way. And for structure, you need time and space. Do things when you're supposed to do,
Hmm.
right? Like if you have to wake up and eat breakfast, now you can't claim that I will wake up at 3 and have breakfast. You're literally then having uh, I don't know what to call that term because it's a evening tea and lunch mix now. So some whatever or so you have to understand that the timing has to be right. So first is understand the dharma, then understand the timing. Okay. Like for the child, you have to get the child to study, but you have to get the child to consistently study throughout the year now. For your own health, you have to work for your health. Suddenly, one day you say that I will go to 5 days to the gym in 5 days and lose 10 kgs. It's not going to happen. You're going to crash. You'll do some weird stuff. To lose 10 kgs, it takes 6 to 8 months. You have to do things on time, right? So that's the second thing that you need to do. The third thing is about the intensity or quality. So do what you need to do when you have to do it, and do it appropriate to a certain level of quality, finesse, or standard. That also. Okay. Now you go to the gym and keep running on the treadmill only, you don't build strength, you don't do flexibility exercises, what are you going to do? You will get injured at some point. Every time you meet your spouse or partner, you say, okay, let's watch Netflix. Life is not about Netflix. No? There's so many people today, when you ask them, what do you do to unwind? Netflix, Amazon Prime. Content is so freely available, and there's so many other OTT channels. That's not, you're again overstimulating your brain. You're not giving it the right quality. Had you sat down and done some stretching or exercise, or make sure that you make a meal for yourself and the family, have some family time, you may have unwound far better than sitting in front of some other content and overstimulating your brain there. So this is about the quality. So let's understand discipline in those three structures, right? I'm
Hmm.
only answering what. I'm not getting to the why or how. That's a longer story. And spoken some time back about discipline and some 10 steps of how do you get to discipline. But this is just what. What is discipline? Understanding your dharmas and doing things which you're supposed to do, doing them at the right time and doing them to the right standard or quantity or intensity or quality.
Hmm.
That's the way to understand this.
Hmm. Thank you for that clarification, Dada. So, when we quote discipline in the
Hmm,
context of freedom,
hmm, hmm, hmm,
how does discipline actually expand our freedom rather than
hmm.
restrict it?
Simple thing is it avoids trouble. When you do what you're supposed to do, when you are supposed to do it, and to the extent that you're supposed to do it, you'll avoid trouble in life. You'll avoid trouble in life, you'll be free. Otherwise, you will be doing troubleshooting of your life. It's as simple as that. There is no more a complicated answer than that. You're disciplined in life,
Absolutely.
you will avoid trouble. Will trouble still come looking your way? At times, yes, there are things that can still go wrong. But yes, you will have the time and energy from all the other things that you're doing to really take care of any exigencies that happen in life.
Hmm.
Right? So it's as simple as that. I don't think there is a more complicated answer to it than that. Be disciplined, avoid trouble in life. That's it. And that will keep you free. That will keep you free of worries, anxiety. So it'll keep you free of negative emotions, negative experiences. It'll keep you free of giving negative experiences to other people around you. That's simple as it.
Exactly. So true. And can it also lead to inner peace, a deeper sense of joy?
Okay. So I think let's extend that previous answer where we said you stay disciplined and you will avoid trouble. Okay. Now
Hmm.
let's say you have a disciplined day. You have 20 things that you want to get done. You get them
Hmm.
done. The brain is experiencing accomplishment.
Hmm.
And every time the brain experiences accomplishment, it is going to self reward itself with positive chemicals. You will have the experience of uh, a natural experience of dopamines. You'll have a natural experiences of pleasure when you have good results, the endorphins kicking in. So that's a natural settlement for you, right?
Hmm.
Also, when you live in a disciplined way, you're getting things done. Your day is structured. You finish what you planned. Unnecessary stress that happens, your cortisol levels and any other stress related chemicals, they will come down. You won't need stimulation. So when people get addicted to tea, coffee, cigarettes, they want to unwind, they reach out for a drink and or be stimulated with sugar or carbohydrates. Over a period of time, you can control those if you get disciplined. What are you then doing? Your body is clean, your mind is clean, your brain is experiencing clean, free, unnecessarily chemical free experience. You'll breathe better. And when we
Hmm.
are flowing, we are getting results. You'll breathe easy. When you breathe easy, your body is oxygenated properly. So you see, it's a it's a whole interconnection of the body, the mind, the life itself being structured and free. So discipline has that huge impact on so many things. Now, let's understand what is joy. Joy is no outer emotion, outer energy that comes into us. A state of joy is what? When you accomplish things, you will experience a certain joy. When you have
Hmm.
positive relationships with others around you, you will experience a sense of joy. When you get done what you want to get done, and hopefully it's a positive thing that you want to do, you will experience a certain amount of joy, right? But being in that state of joy is something that you choose. You experience that joy, right? So let me put this like this. Discipline can help you with joy for sure. It'll clean up your life so that you experience your joy, but that joy itself is an inner experience and an inner feeling. Are you
Hmm.
joyful in who you are? Are you joyful of who you are becoming? Are you joyful of where you are in life? And here, again, discipline comes in handy because if you're going to be constantly guilty of not being positive in life, if you're going to constantly be looking over your shoulder, are my mistakes catching up with me? If you're going to be constantly unsure of your present and your future, then you will not experience that state of life. I mean, you can't say that uh, I'm my life is completely catching fire and I will sit here and enjoy. Yeah, there could be some people who may do that, but that's a very artificial state of being. If you're living a dharmic life, your state of joy will also come with how you are experiencing Shuddhi in your life. Physical Shuddhi, mental Shuddhi, Karmic Shuddhi, spiritual Shuddhi. That state of Shuddhi is important. So, as much
Hmm.
as it is a right to say joy is
Hmm.
an inner state of being, but your inner state itself has to be sorted out. You have to
Hmm.
be a structured, disciplined human being to even experience that. Yes, could you push it too far and become too clinical and uh, too mechanical about your life? That happens to some people who take discipline overboard. So discipline also means that you, to some extent, know how structured to be and where to let go a little bit of life. So that balance is there,
Hmm.
obviously. But
Hmm.
ultimately, if discipline contributes to a lot of inner order, clarity
Hmm.
of mind, a sense of uh, regulation with your life, a sense of being on time, a sense of being in the know of what do I need to do next? Where are my resources? How am I preparing some of these things? And for a temporary period of time, you may experience discomfort because you're doing something that is challenging you, but you could still do that joyously if, in general, you are a disciplined person. But if you are
Hmm.
completely indisciplined, then the kind of joy or euphoria you may have may just be a mask that you're wearing in denial of everything else. And yes, there are some people who are like the absolutely happy-go-lucky. I will do what comes my way. I will take everything one day at a time. And there's no planning, nothing at all. They are also living that life. But at some point in time, you will see that they will run into some sort of trouble and then all hell breaks loose. So my encouragement is not only to ask, am I joyous in this moment? It's also to ask, am I joyous because of cleanliness? Am I joyous and able to stay joyous? Am I enjoying and joyous with my life and I'm able to spread this to others? Am I able to grow and sustain this joy without artificial or any unnecessary efforts there? So all of those are important questions. Life Aarti needs to be looked at a whole and not just in
Hmm.
small little pieces. Like there are some people who come to a spiritual workshop or a meditation class and they've experienced a lot of joy.
Hmm.
Moment they go out, they're fighting
Hmm.
on the street, fighting in their family. There are people who go off for repeat pilgrimages, but what happens? They come back and it's a very different business for them. Yeah. So these are the
Hmm.
people who don't have inner freedom. And again, we'll go back to the first answer. The freedom first has to come on the inside. You have to be free of your fears, your challenges. You need to understand what is your life, your dharma, and be able to live with that. And that's what discipline helps you do. Hope that answers your question.
It does. And it also reminded me of a news that I recently heard. And it was about a person who drifted away while he went to fishing. He
Hmm,
drifted
hmm,
away because of a storm
hmm,
and came back to the land after 14 months.
hmm,
And when he
hmm,
was being interviewed about it, and
hmm,
he also had another younger friend with him, and he unfortunately couldn't make it. So when he was being interviewed, the one who survived, he said that it was nothing but routine that actually helps me survive. And that connected with self-discipline and how it can help
Oh,
us.
yes. Thank you for bringing in such a beautiful example. See, what we have to remember is that, the commercial way many people understand life through novels and books and movies and all these shows, etc. Life appears very glamorous there.
Hmm.
But if you really look at adult life, the largest part of it is very boring. From your laundry to maintaining your house to cooking meals repeatedly a day, many of us have to do many of these things again and again and again. And even if you could afford all the help in the world, and if you had 10 other people doing it, you still have to give instructions, do some coordination. You know, Starting a business might be exciting, but there are so many routine things to do in that business. A job, a title, the salary may seem very attractive, but there are so many routine things to do. So we have to understand this. The largest part of adult life is very boring, mundane, and routine. You have to be able to find fun in that. You have to be able to find the joy in doing that. And that's why I said a disciplined person experiences a sense of joy when they accomplish certain things. That structure is very important. Without structure, dynamics is very dangerous. You can choose to forever be in that dynamic state that do whatever it is, whenever it is. There is a consequence of that. You pay the price in advance, always. You pay the price in advance, always. And sometimes when you are paying the price in advance and the habits are bad or the practices are bad or the living is bad, then you again pay a price for the consequences. We all pay a price in advance. But if the habit is positive, then you reap the benefits of it. Don't pay a price.
Mm.
That's what we need to understand. Yeah. So,
Right.
but yes, what that person said, that it's only routine that helped the person survive. That, my friend, is the power of being disciplined,
Yes.
understanding your dharma, and doing exactly what is in front of you. Right? The person didn't know he's or she's going to get rescued at 14 months of being lost at sea or wherever they were lost. It could have been the 12th month. It could have been the 18th month. They did not know it. What made them not lose hope? Just be there. Stick to it. And life is like that. Life is like that sea. Your education is like that sea. Professions are like that sea. The marriage can be like that sea. Running a business can be like that sea. The question is, are you going to show up and show up and show up?
Mm.
And are you going to do and do and do and stick to it? And for people who think that uh, the glamour of what they see in commercial life is what it comes to be, becoming a millionaire overnight or winning some lottery or having that stroke of luck where their investment sort of quadruples over a period of time. Well, it happens sometimes, it happens to a few people, not to everybody. And that's something we all have to understand. Largest part of adult life is extremely boring and it has to get done. All of it.
Thank you for for reiterating this. And the next question that comes to my mind is then, is discipline a form of self-love?
Mm, mm, mm. Why and why not? Both ways. Let's look at it. Uh, I commonly keep giving you that jab that, we are all work in progress. So if you're all work in progress, then we need to also be disciplined, right? So we have to keep progressing every day. So that's the vibe. Well, I mean, yes, discipline brings self-love. So if you want to progress in life, if you want to get better in life, you have to keep moving, keep staying at it. You have to get done whatever you're doing. Time is moving on, the world is moving on, everyone around is moving on. You better make your share of progress. Yes, you decide what your goals are, what you need to achieve in life, and you stick to it. Why not on the other side? Sometimes, like I said, taking discipline too far can also be a spiritual danger because then you are becoming too mechanical, too clinical with everything, right? You're not cutting yourself that little bit of slack. Others around you could possibly suffer because of the way you are approaching life. So that
Hmm.
discipline of yours has to also be modulated. Sometimes you just need to let be. You need to recharge, and unstructured time is important for
Hmm.
recharging at times. This doesn't need to be done every day, but can you do it once in a week? Or like you go to the mall, you say, okay, 10 to 12 I will watch the movie, 12:15 I will enter the restaurant, 12:45 I will make sure that I am done with food, I will come home by 1 o'clock, and then I will do this, and then I will do that. So if you're going to spend your Sunday like that, it is going to become a serious issue for someone who's trying to enjoy along with you, right? If work is
Hmm.
constantly on your mind and then you're not being in that moment, it can be a challenge. So the combination again is structure and dynamics. So you have to
Hmm.
have that overall discipline which holds your life structured, but you
Hmm.
also have to flow with life and make those accommodations which are required. That
Hmm.
then is the self-love, is the appreciation of the other, is the love of life,
Hmm.
is then being flexible enough. So
Hmm.
discipline with flexibility, discipline with accommodation, that can create self-love. Otherwise, if you are only disciplined, if you're only focused on what you need to get done, that could quickly become a very self-absorbed behavior, a very
Hmm.
selfish behavior. And that could lead you to drag others along. You could become very judgmental, very critical, because then you're constantly expecting results from yourself and others. And when that doesn't
Hmm.
happen, the ugly side of you jumps out and tries to take control and push for results. No, it doesn't happen. We have to
Correct.
start thinking about life from a holistic perspective for us, for others, across time and space, across resources. We have to accommodate for all the distractions and deviations that come through. And that's what life is all about. So, discipline will become self love if you're managing the dynamics of life, being flexible with others, being adaptive, accommodative with others. Too much
Hmm.
of discipline with ignoring the situation and others, then is self absorbed, then is very judgmental, critical, and it could tend to you having a flawed personality or personality oriented issues that others will pay for, you will pay for because of that self absorbed habit.
Yes. Yes. When I was asking you that first question
Mm,
as to why do we see rules as restrictions, and when
mm,
you talk about this, I can think of there are some people who are extremely disciplined, and we also almost see them as rigid,
mm.
inflexible, too serious sometimes. And how do we strike this balance between being disciplined, but not going on one extreme of becoming rigid and inflexible, but having that boundary, having that self-discipline as a way to contain our energy.
Mm, mm, mm. So I think it's back to what we have learned about ourselves and about others. So many of us have very incomplete education about how the human brain functions, how the human emotions function, self-awareness. Uh, I keep pointing all of you towards Yama and Niyama given by Patanjali in his Yoga Shastras. And when you look at the Niyama side of things, the fourth and the fifth Niyama are uh, Swadhyay and Ishwar Pranidhan. Swadhyay
Hmm.
is about self-study, and Ishwar Pranidhan is about leaving certain things to God. So when you do self-study, you're also not just doing self-study, but you're doing study of how human beings function. You'll get to know how others are living, how
Hmm.
others feel, etc. What our scriptures say about what are the right things to do. Ishwar Pranidhan is also about submitting to God, leaving some things to God, etc. So
Hmm.
the the way to realize and understand life is through a lot of learning about self, scriptures, others, understanding, and to leave certain things to God. When you're going to try and control everything in your life, then over a period of time, your desire to control, your desire for perfection, your desires for constant results, your desires for constant stimulation, all of these are going to get expressed in some way or the other. Some of that
Hmm.
will come across as your bad habits. Some of that could become your addictions. Some of that could lead you to make wrong choices. Some of that could lead to other people around you suffering. Some of that
Hmm.
could lead to losses, failures in life, all of that. So that's how serious the consequences could be of
Hmm.
not understanding who you are, nature, all the knowledge that exists out there, etc.
Right. So how do we use self-discipline to, like you keep telling us, to contain our energy, to direct our energy, to
Mm,
get a deeper meaning
mm,
of life?
mm, mm, mm. The biggest stress that I will give is on learning.
Hmm.
Learn. Learn about yourself. Learn and understand. Like, what does reading the Bhagavad Gita help you with? With
Hmm.
every chapter, as Sri Krishna keeps on instructing Arjuna, a willing seeker will understand, hey, how does this apply to my life? So if Sri Krishna is helping Arjuna understand that here are the five qualities which you must imbibe, then how do these five qualities apply to me? Or if Sri Krishna says everything stops at me, what does then that mean? Or if Sri Krishna says that your focus should be only on the karma and not looking at the results, then what does that mean? So
Hmm.
there's so many lessons out there. Same thing when you pick up an Upanishad, right? Or same thing when you pick up the Brahma Sutras or the Prakarana Granthas. So if Shankaracharya says Viveka is one of the most important qualities that a spiritual sadhak must possess, then what does that mean? So
Hmm.
learning this and learning also through dialogues with teachers, masters, your gurus, because not everything may be written in those granthas, but some of them is also the interpretation of what is written out there. Like, what is truly a spiritual journey? And when are you running away from life and using spiritual journey as an excuse? Or at what point in time are you running away from relationships and using them as compared to letting go of relationships which are not serving your and the other person's life purpose? There is a fine line of divide between these. So you
Hmm.
have to have constant self-regulation, constant learning of all of these self-regulation. So
Hmm.
learn from granthas, learn from gurus, learn from masters, have constant dialogues. That's how you will get the understanding of where you need to head with in life with respect to self-control, self-respect, self-regulation, all of these things.
Okay. And speaking about relationships,
Hmm.
um, is it important to have boundaries in relationships? And how can we cultivate certain boundaries that don't feel like, that don't create distance or ego walls, but actually preserve the respect and energy in that
Hmm.
relationship?
So your question brings me back to the favorite example that I give. Is when you look at a river, you'll recognize the river because you see the banks of the river. If the banks are not there, you are either looking at the sea or you are looking at a
A
flood.
flood.
Right? I mean, it's highly unlikely that you're too zoomed in and you're looking at a lake where you really can't see, because then if you saw the boundaries, you will know that it's not a river, it's a lake, because the
Hmm.
boundaries are completely circling, right? So that boundary is helping you understand what kind of a water body this is. And you know that this is a river. Yeah. Just like that, anything gets defined by its boundary, right? You have an ice cream cone in your hand. The wafer defines the cone. Now change the wafer cone into a waffle cone. It's a waffle cone now. Now you remove the waffle cone and you put a cup there. It's a ice cream cup. A boundary is defining that identity. But it's not only there because that waffle cone is there, because that wafer cone is there, before that, because that cup is there. Even if the ice cream melts,
Hmm.
it'll contain it, right?
Hmm.
So it may drip a little, like the waffle cone may drip at the bottom because it's got a slightly non-overlapping end, or ultimately it'll also contain. So that's the other thing that we need to understand, that as much as boundaries help us recognize any relationship,
Hmm.
boundaries also have a utility of defining the functionality of that relationship, of keeping it functional, of keeping it healthy, because then it tells
Wow.
you that that's the purpose that you need to serve. So it serves the purpose of identity also, and
Hmm.
it serves the purpose of utility and preserving the nature of that relationship also. So spiritually, from a sense
Hmm.
of freedom perspective, from a sense of depth to life perspective, the boundary will free you,
Hmm.
right? Like, let's take a very simple example to this whole thing. You buy a ticket and you get on a train. You didn't buy the ticket to go and drive the train. Can you go demand the loco pilot that you sit behind? I will drive the train for you. And you may do that. You're free to do that. But then what is a local pilot going to do? He's going to call the security chappies and get you thrown off or offloaded. Or you try to do that on an airplane, you will highly likely be banned for lifetime from flying, right? The ticket tells you you are a passenger and
Hmm.
you need to behave like a passenger,
Hmm.
right? But on that same train, you get a license as a vendor. What do? You can carry stuff, you can sell stuff, you have a certain responsibility towards bringing the right things, but you can also earn money for this. You're getting on the train, and in that same journey where one person reaches from destination A to destination B, the vendor is earning his or her livelihood from destination A to destination B. On
Hmm.
the same train, somebody gets appointed as the security staff. They then have that responsibility of doing what they need to do in terms of uh, ensuring that the train stays safe, etc. So that's the way that we can look at and understand this. So boundaries, very important for the relationship to be identified and defined. Boundaries, very important to keep the sanctity of the relationship, keep it functional, preserve uh, it over a period of time and provide it longevity so that it doesn't get shut down by somebody. All of that.
Hmm.
Very critical. Literally, it's a very important concept. Many people use it as a psychological or a commercial concept. It's first
Yeah.
a deeply spiritual concept than just being a commercial or a psychological concept. Yes, those are. It is those things also. First,
Hmm.
it's a very spiritual concept. It keeps
Hmm.
you sane.
Yes. Yeah. Otherwise, we do end up causing a lot of trouble for ourselves and others.
And as I said, it preserves your sanity, keeps you sane. People who don't have boundaries can have serious sanity issues. Some get noticed, others don't. Some are controllable, others are not. So for your own sanctity, for your own sanity, for your own survival, for your own uh, sustenance, have boundaries, even with yourself.
That's so important. Can you say something a little bit about that? Boundaries with yourself.
So, it's, do you go to advice to others?
Hmm?
Do you go to others for advice?
Yeah.
You do. Do you decide that it's time for me to take advice? That's a boundary with yourself. But do you take in every advice that you get? You may not.
Not
You
necessarily.
may think logically and say, I am going to use logic in this situation to filter this and then see how does this apply to my life. Right? Somebody says, do A, B, C, D. You choose to do A, B, C and say, I will do D later because I know my limits.
Hmm.
These are all ways to understand boundaries with yourself. What do I do? When do I do it? How do I do it? Who do I do it with? To what extent do I do? These are all important boundaries that we must keep with our own self. Indulgence. When do you know that you have to not pick up the next pakora? Or when do you know that you can have that can of Coke versus when it is a little too much of something else? So, all of that. Boundaries with your own self. That's about containing and regulating your inner voice, your choices, your decision.
So now, can we talk a little bit about the yogic path?
Hmm.
It starts with Yama and Niyama, and this was the path to liberation. So how is it that a path to liberation starts with a set of do's and don'ts?
Lovely. I think you've placed the question in a wonderful place because we have given a lot of context to what is freedom, why rules are important, why structure is important, why uh, life is important, and all of that. And now, when you ask about rules, I think you're also talking about Yama and Niyama from Patanjali's perspective, because I keep referring to them about rules. So let's understand this. And first, I'll give you a little bit of background to this. Many people will be very surprised to know that the older literature of yoga, and I'm talking about much earlier than Patanjali himself, did not contain Yama and Niyama. They had only 6 limbs. They started with asana, pranayam, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Patanjali came much later, and I think later than Buddhism also. So, so at some point in time, Patanjali must have observed, and he was a great sage and a great observer and great intuitive human being, a rishi in his own rights, and wonderful creator of several methodologies, assimilator, author, poet. Patanjali would have definitely observed that the human qualities, value systems, behaviors were getting degraded over a period of time. So, from a Satyuga downwards into Kali Yuga, yes, there has been a lot of deterioration. Evidence of living and evidence that our Shastras provide, and uh, many stories and tales that we have heard, then Ramayana itself helps us understand. Uh, Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata helps us understand. So there's several evidence to understand and say that the human behavior itself was deteriorating over a period of time. So by the time things came down to a place where Sage Patanjali was looking at things, he said, just looking at yoga, which is yuja, rooted in yuja, which means to meet or to unite or to combine or to unify with. And if yoga was one of the paths to achieve the divine, you have to first also be one with your own self, your own energies, right? And if humans did not have that capability to get into asanas, pranayam, dharana, pratyahara, dhyana, dhyana, samadhi, and learn things, then you have to do something to start cleansing yourself. And again, the concept of Shuddhi comes in, which is
Mm-hmm.
where he said external cleansing will happen when you really actually attempt the yamas. And he starts those off by the concept of ahimsa, by mental, verbal, physical ahimsa. And as he progresses through all the yamas, then he helps us understand how, uh, you know, uh, the ahimsa could possibly help you with understanding satya and living with satya. Or from there, how do you choose astheya, and build it up as you go. The 5 limbs would help you build it up. And those are all regulations of the outside. Those are helping you regulate any influences or what you influence on the outside. So prevents a lot of waste of time, failed relationship, failed results, all of that stuff. Teaches you how to really behave in this world, right? So when he talks about aparigraha, which is the 5th pillar, or before that he spoke about brahmacharya. Each of these are ways of living in the world. And then when he comes to niyama, if he says santosha is important in life, but to achieve santosha, the first pillar is shaucha, cleanliness,
Mm-hmm.
purity. So you achieve purity, you achieve uh, shuddhi, shaucha, you will have a chance to set up yourself for santosha. But then that doesn't mean that you have santosha for itself. You also do tapa, which means you deliver, you stay disciplined. And discipline was something you were talking about so much. And much of this helps you to do swadhyay, understand yourself, read the scriptures, become better. And that then gives you an opportunity to get to Ishvara Pranidhana, or submitting to God. So why didn't he put Ishvara Pranidhana right up on top and said, start with Ishvara Pranidhana? There was something great that the sage was thinking. So ahimsa had a role to play. Satya had a role to play, right? Astheya had a role to play. Brahmacharya has a role to play. Aparigraha has a role to play. And from there, leading into Shaucha has a role to play. Santosha has a role to play. Tapa has a role to play. There was a reason why Patanjali strung this beautiful garland of wisdom and instruction. It's as instructive as it is intuitive, and it's as intuitive as it is totally ingenious the way it leads you to life. So yes, those rules are important so that human beings can truly benefit. So even in today's world, can asana, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana really help you get to a state of dhyana? Can it get you to a state of samadhi? Yes, it can. But because we are morally so weak, ethically so weak, our value systems are so impure, our behaviors, our relationships are so impure, our living is so impure, we must follow Yama and Niyama to purify life. And that purification, when it works along with the asana, pranayam, it then helps you really achieve things in life. And a lot of people have this whoosha about moksha and union with God and all of that stuff. They think that it is something that you do after retirement, or people who have too much of money, time, and space will do this. No, not at all. It's something that helps you with daily life. If you are born with a certain destiny in life, for you to be able to achieve everything that you can achieve in that in a peaceful way, in a coexistent way, much of this helps you. So Yama
Hmm.
Niyama is absolutely important for a student, a householder, a business owner, a doctor, a lawyer, a cop, whatever you might be, a politician, a civil servant. It can help you live with virtues and values. That's the power of this. This is no spiritual overdose. It's a life dose. It's a life path. These are rules of life. These are rules for living. Ashtanga yoga is not meant for somebody living in the jungle. It's designed for a householder. If you were living in a jungle, the laws by which sadhus live, Naga sadhus live, Aghoris live, or some of the other paths live, monks live, those rules are very different.
Hmm.
These are things which are designed for a householder. These are things which are designed for a student, a housewife, a businesswoman, a businessman, a professional, a politician. Does that make sense? Right?
A lot of sense,
These are
yes.
things for a common human being. And even if you think you are uncommon, it's meant for you.
This is really shifting my perspective of looking at Yama, Niyama, discipline as punishments and ways to torture. In fact, it is for you to live more fully, more freely, and to, if you can, and if it is in your
And I
best
must
and your,
take the liberty to say it's actually to help you prevent torturing yourself and punishing yourself. Let's put it like that.
yes, yes. Uh, so to sort of sum up all the questions that were in my mind and our viewers about freedom, uh, I wonder if without discipline, would life be more chaotic and more torturous, like we are speaking about right now?
So I guess a very implied question. So let's understand that not everything that we do in life results in what life actually becomes. Life has its own intelligence. Life has its own flow. You can possibly observe the most indisciplined people, yet their life is flowing. And that's a grace of life. That's the purpunyas that you carry. That's the blessings that you carry. That's the power of your kundali, the blessings of your ancestors, the blessing of your ishta gurus, etc. that you carry. You may not believe in all of these things, but life goes on. Life has its own mechanism, right? So whether you are an astic or an astic, whichever way, if your life is flowing, it is flowing because that's the blessing of life. You may be the most indisciplined person. However, if you were disciplined, you could extend that grace. You never know when that grace runs out. It could be a day, a week, a month, a season, for a reason, or for a lifetime. You don't know that. So if you're disciplined, it can prevent you from running, all of that running out. But look at the other way around. For most of us, we have ups and downs in life, right? So what discipline helps you is it helps you make the most of the good times, and it helps you build a foundation and be resilient in the bad times.
Hmm. Hmm.
So can it prevent chaos? Well, life, if it has to create chaos, it will. There's nothing that none of us can do to fight all the forces of nature. So it will be wishful thinking to say I will become disciplined and everything will be all right in my life. I will be disciplined and I will get done most of the things that I need to get done. Whether you get the results now or later, that's something to be seen. Your
Hmm.
life could continue to be chaotic for a long, long time, but you continue to be disciplined for a long, long time. And then at some point in time, you may actually see that you are enjoying beautiful results of the whole thing. That time may not come also, because as Krishna says, karmanye vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadacha. So it is our right to be a kriya yogi, a karma yogi. It's our right and our responsibility to do the karmas according to the dharmas of our life, but it is not our right, neither our entitlement, to expect the outcomes of that. So is discipline something that we need to practice as a part and parcel of life? Yes, it is. Discipline is something that you do despite everything. In spite of whatever is happening, you stay disciplined. That's your dharma. You don't choose to do dharma so that you get some returns. You choose to do dharma because dharma is to be dharmic. Dharmic is the way of life.
Hmm.
That's all you do. And anyone who doesn't live life dharmically is then going to, at some point in time, pay a price. Now, later, at some point in time, it will come asking for its worth of whatever it is. So be cautious. So do not be disciplined in the hope to sorting off your life. It
Hmm.
may not happen because your life is destined in a certain way. Do not prejudge the intelligence of life. Do not try to bribe life with discipline. Discipline is not a bribe. It's your duty.
Yes, yes.
You're supposed to do it. Keep these two things separate.
And this is a very student question to ask, but
Hmm.
how, Dada, do we find the courage, the strength to be consistent in our efforts, irrespective of the outcome?
Pray, very important. Very important. Don't doubt the power of prayer. What your Ishtaguru, what your Ishtadevata can bring to you can be phenomenal. Pray, focus. Uh, that's one absolute thing that you must to find courage. Second is learn. Our scriptures themselves have a lot of power. Thousands and thousands and thousands of years of very learned people putting their energy there. All of that is in the universal consciousness. There is nothing like a past or a future. It's all here in the present. We are one continuum across time and space. Everything that has happened everywhere, anywhere, is still happening somewhere, will happen somewhere. This time and space is a continuum. If scientists can go back and see the Big Bang moment, that somewhere our life and time and space is in continuum. We've heard of multiverses, this, that, so many concepts. More on that some point in time, but spiritually understand that it's here. It's all here. You can focus and get all the energy that you need in this if you're attuned correctly. Like in physics, we say you have to be resonating properly. So you resonate properly with life, resonate properly with your God, Ishtadevata, your Guru. You resonate properly with the Granthas. You will find the courage to act. When you're lost in your thoughts, when you're lost in your own narratives, your negative emotions, you'll be lost there. When you're lost in
Hmm.
your emotions, you'll be there. Courage is very logical. I have to do this, let me get this done. So when
Hmm.
you apply logic to courage,
Hmm.
it'll happen. When you try to look for the emotion called courage, you will you will be lost. Sometimes it may come, sometimes it may not. When courage comes as an emotion, it may be a grandiosity. When courage comes an emotion, it may be exuberance. When courage comes an emotion, it could be an overstimulated you. But when true courage comes, that's mostly logical. I have to get this done. I will get this done. This is my dharma, right? So when Arjuna was asked to pick up his Gandiva and do what he was supposed to do, he was supposed to apply logic. Where do I fire? How do I fire? How much do I fire? What weapon do I fire next? You are not doing that with the emotion of courage. You're doing that with the logic of courage. right? So much of these value systems, values, behaviors, these are logical things. You have to apply your brain. Your brain has to work, right? You could put positive emotions into this. You could do things with compassion, with warmth. You could do that with gentleness. You can bring in some of those. But even there, to apply things, the skill is always logical.
Mm.
So find the logic of courage. Apply courage logically. It'll happen. Like one of the simple logics that we spoke about today is discipline. Discipline is logic. I have to do this, let me get this done. I have to do this, let me get this done. I have to do this, let me get this done. We are sitting here and speaking through certain things. You have gone and done some homework. You've dug through questions, spoken to the other students, and you've showed up here on a public forum. It takes courage to sit here and speak and ask questions, but you've done some homework, right? Imagine if you had just shown up here in this conversation without any preparation. Would that be courageous or would that be foolhardy? Would that be grandiosity? Would that be exuberance? Would that be overconfidence? Then it is not courage, right? Then it is all of these other things.
Yes.
Logical courage that you showed was you went and spoke to by people, did your research, prepared well, dressed well, sitting here talking. Courage. Hope that helps you understand.
Yes, it does. And to implement all this that we have been speaking about, knowledge, learning, discipline, boundaries, what is something we can ask ourselves every day or do a small thing where we can start today to start building this discipline?
Just take the next step, one step at a time, every time. Yes, you need to have a bigger picture. Where am I headed in 5, 8, 10 years? Some of that you may require a little bit of guidance, guidance from your parents, guidance from some elders, guidance from your guru, coach, mentor, teacher, etc. So develop a bigger vision of life, but it's important here and now to just act. Act on that plan. Act on what you've decided to do. Take that one step. Take that second step. So in Bhagavad Gita also, if there are certain yogas that are spoken about, Sri Krishna says this so powerfully that Karma Yoga is extremely critical in life. Jnana Yoga is very critical in life. And only through these can you attain Bhakti Yoga. So in Karma Yoga is hidden Bhakti Yoga. In Jnana Yoga is hidden Bhakti Yoga. But Karma Yoga is very important. You cannot not be doing the karma and expect Jnana to come to you. You cannot not be doing your karma and expect Bhakti to come to you. It isn't going to happen. So the root of all of these things is karma. Do your kriya. Yes, you have to be thoughtful. Yes, you have to be logical. Yes, you need to understand structures. Yes, you need to have a body of knowledge. Those are the preparations. Yes, you need to have a guidance. Yes, you need to have a plan to it. That's a preparation of it. But then karma is it. Take that step. Continue taking that step. And that's where the power of consistency comes in. Show up, show up, show up. Remember, you are work in progress and you're going to remain work in progress for a long time. Most of us need to remember that we are going to remain a lousy work in progress before you become a decent work in progress. Then we have to remain a decent work in progress for a long time before we become a good work in progress. We have to remain a good work in progress for a long time before we become a best work in progress. I am not sure if we will, if any of us will stop being a work in progress ever. So if we have to have a life of being work in progress, we might as well drag ourselves out of being a lousy work in progress to a good work in progress at least. At least be that work in progress. So the biggest thing to do, just be a work in progress. Get better. Progress. Work in progress. Work is important. Progress is important. Okay.
A metaphor comes to my mind is that
Mm.
when a caterpillar tries to become a butterfly, it goes through all those stages, and especially when it is in the cocoon and it is building its strength, it has those boundaries. Until it pushes through it and it develops its strength and then becomes really a butterfly and free to fly.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And in the human life, we have that blessing that there will be many butterflies that we can become. But we have to always remember that we cannot stop at being that butterfly. That may just be a station. It may not be the ultimate destination. And we all have to remember that the ultimate destination for all of us is becoming one with Parabrahma. And that's what we have to remember. Everything else is material. It has to be done. It must be done because we have a material life. But that ultimate consciousness is what we need to get to. So continue being the many butterflies, but don't get off the train and stop being anything else because you became a butterfly. You could possibly
Yes.
become a better butterfly. That
Yes.
has to continue. That journey has to continue.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dada, today for all the wisdom. And please keep your blessings with us so that we can continue to be a work in progress.
May Shiva and Shakti bless you always. It's their ultimate blessing that the Adi Yogi be the ultimate teacher for everybody. That's what I always say. And thank you all to your students for compiling all of these questions for the podcast and for all the people who have stimulated you to do this. Thank you so much. And we will see everybody soon, as soon as you guys have planned the next podcast. Till then, Jai Mahakal, Jai Mahakali.
Jai Mahakal.